Most economic crises do not begin with panic. They begin during periods that feel normal. Markets are open. Jobs still exist. Spending continues. Life looks ordinary. In fact, some of the worst financial crises in history arrived after long stretches of apparent calm. Nothing felt urgent. Nothing felt broken. That normality is not accidental. It is part of how modern economic systems function. This video explains why the global economy often feels stable right before it breaks, and why warning signs are almost always invisible to most people until it is too late. Normality is not a signal of safety. The first mistake people make when thinking about economic crises is assuming they announce themselves. They expect rising panic, clear warnings, obvious breakdowns. That expectation is wrong. Modern economies are designed to preserve normal appearances for as long as possible. Stability is not just an outcome. It is an objective. Governments, central banks, and institutions actively work to maintain normal conditions, even when underlying stress is increasing. This creates a gap between reality and perception. From the outside, the system looks fine. Underneath, pressure is building. One reason normality persists is delayed impact. Many economic problems do not cause immediate disruption. Debt can grow for years before it becomes restrictive. Asset prices can inflate without obvious consequences. Structural weaknesses can deepen while surface indicators remain strong. Because consequences arrive later, behavior does not change early. Another reason is intervention. Modern economic systems are constantly stabilized. Interest rates are adjusted. Liquidity is provided. Markets are supported. These actions smooth short-term disruptions. They also mask long-term imbalance. When stress appears, it is absorbed, delayed, or redistributed. This creates the illusion that the system is healthy. Another factor is selective visibility. Economic stress does not affect everyone at the same time. Some sectors weaken early. Others continue to grow. Some regions struggle while others appear strong. Because impact is uneven, the overall picture looks balanced. People judge the system by what they personally experience. If daily life feels normal, risk feels distant. Another reason normality persists is narrative. Economic narratives explain why current conditions make sense. Growth is framed as resilience. Stability is framed as control. Volatility is framed as temporary. These narratives are reinforced by experts, institutions, and media. As long as the story holds, contradictory signals are dismissed. Another reason is adaptation. People adjust gradually to worsening conditions. Costs rise slowly. Opportunities narrow incrementally. Standards shift. Because change is gradual, it feels manageable. What would have seemed alarming if it happened suddenly becomes normal when it happens slowly. Another factor is expectation anchoring. People expect tomorrow to resemble today. When that expectation holds repeatedly, it becomes a baseline. Risk is measured relative to recent experience, not historical extremes. This makes abnormal conditions feel normal. Another reason is the structure of modern economies. They are optimized for continuity. Supply chains, financial markets, and institutions are built to keep operating under stress. They can tolerate pressure for long periods. But tolerance is not immunity. Another factor is the invisibility of thresholds. Economic systems can absorb stress up to a limit. That limit is not visible in advance. Everything appears fine until it is crossed. When the threshold is crossed, adjustment is rapid. This makes collapse feel sudden, even though the process was long. Another reason is trust. People trust systems that have worked before. That trust delays skepticism. The longer stability lasts, the stronger trust becomes. Another factor is complexity. Modern economies are too complex for simple signals. Cause and effect are separated by time and distance. Early warnings are technical and easy to ignore. Another reason normality persists is institutional language. Authorities avoid alarming language. They emphasize control and preparedness. This is intended to prevent panic. It also delays recognition. Another factor is memory. As time passes since previous crises, fear fades. Lessons become abstract. Confidence grows. Another reason is that crises are defined in hindsight. We only label a crisis after collapse. Before that, it is just current conditions. All of this explains why the global economy often feels normal right before it breaks. Normality is not evidence of safety. It is often evidence that pressure has not yet surfaced. The system is absorbing stress without showing it. One of the most misleading aspects of modern economies is how well they absorb stress. Pressure does not immediately create disruption. It is distributed, delayed, and redirected. This is why warning signs rarely appear where people expect them. When stress enters the system, it does not explode outward. It moves inward. Institutions adjust quietly. Markets reprice gradually. Policies are altered incrementally. From the outside, nothing appears broken. One way stress is absorbed is through balance sheets. Governments borrow instead of cutting spending. Corporations refinance instead of downsizing. Households use credit instead of reducing consumption. These choices soften immediate impact. They also push consequences into the future. The system remains functional, but less flexible. Another way stress is absorbed is through monetary adjustment. Interest rates are changed slowly. Liquidity is injected selectively. Financial conditions are eased without public disruption. These actions stabilize outcomes. They also change incentives. Risk appears manageable. Exposure increases. Another mechanism is price insulation. Some prices rise quickly. Others are held down. Subsidies, contracts, and regulations smooth volatility. This prevents visible spikes. But pressure still exists. It accumulates beneath controlled prices. Another absorption mechanism is labor adjustment. Employment does not collapse immediately. Hours are reduced. Wage growth slows. Hiring freezes quietly replace layoffs. From the outside, employment looks stable. Internally, strain is growing. Another way stress is hidden is through asset markets. Asset prices can remain high even as fundamentals weaken. Liquidity, expectation, and policy support sustain valuations. This creates confidence. But confidence does not equal strength. Another mechanism is geographic redistribution. Stress appears in specific regions first. Other regions remain unaffected. Because impact is uneven, the aggregate picture looks stable. This delays recognition. Another absorption method is narrative framing. Weakness is explained as transition. Slowdown is explained as adjustment. Instability is framed as normalization. Narratives reduce fear. They also reduce urgency. Another way stress is absorbed is time. Many economic processes move slowly. Contracts delay adjustment. Debt structures spread repayment. Policy changes take time to affect behavior. This time lag creates calm. But calm is temporary. Another mechanism is institutional expectation. Markets expect support. Businesses expect accommodation. Households expect continuity. This expectation stabilizes behavior. It also increases dependence. Another way stress is hidden is through complexity. Stress does not accumulate in one place. It spreads across systems. No single indicator captures it. Signals are fragmented. Each signal looks manageable on its own. Together, they form vulnerability. Another mechanism is financial engineering. Risk is packaged, transferred, and hedged. This does not remove risk. It redistributes it. Where risk ends up is often unclear. Another absorption method is behavioral adjustment. People lower expectations gradually. They accept less growth. They tolerate higher costs. They adapt. Because adaptation is slow, alarm is delayed. Another way stress is hidden is policy sequencing. Actions are taken in small steps. Each step feels insufficient to cause concern. But steps accumulate. Another mechanism is externalization. Costs are shifted to the future. They are shifted to other sectors. They are shifted to other countries. This postpones impact. Another absorption process is institutional inertia. Systems resist change. They maintain routines. They preserve appearances. This creates continuity. Another way stress is hidden is asymmetric impact. Some benefit from adjustment. Others suffer quietly. Those benefiting see no reason to worry. Another mechanism is confidence reinforcement. As long as the system functions, confidence is justified. This confidence feeds stability. Another absorption method is rule-based response. Automatic stabilizers activate. Taxes adjust. Transfers increase. This smooths outcomes. Another way stress is hidden is measurement lag. Data arrives slowly. Indicators reflect past conditions. Real-time stress is not visible. Another mechanism is optimism bias. People expect resolution. This expectation delays precaution. Another absorption method is structural denial. Acknowledging vulnerability is costly. It threatens trust. So systems emphasize continuity. Another way stress is hidden is fragmentation of responsibility. No single actor is accountable. Each assumes others are managing risk. Another mechanism is normalization of abnormal conditions. What would once be concerning becomes routine. Boundaries shift. Another absorption method is threshold masking. Stress builds below visible limits. Nothing happens until limits are crossed. Another way stress is hidden is that modern systems are designed to avoid panic. Panic is treated as a greater risk than imbalance. So imbalance is tolerated longer. This is why the global economy can feel normal while pressure builds. Stress is being absorbed, not eliminated. And absorption has limits. When those limits are reached, adjustment is no longer quiet. It is sudden. Why warning signs are always missed. Economic crises are rarely caused by a single event. They are caused by accumulation. But accumulation is difficult to perceive in real time. This is why warning signs are almost always missed. One reason warnings are missed is signal dilution. Modern economies generate enormous amounts of data. Inflation numbers, employment reports, market indices, credit spreads, consumer confidence. Each indicator moves differently. Some improve while others weaken. Because signals conflict, urgency disappears. Another reason is that early warnings are technical. They appear in balance sheets, leverage ratios, and funding structures. These signals are abstract. They do not affect daily life immediately. As a result, they are ignored outside expert circles. Another reason is false reassurance from averages. Aggregate data hides extremes. Strong sectors offset weak ones. Healthy regions mask distressed areas. The overall picture looks acceptable. But averages conceal fragility. Another reason warnings are missed is policy credibility. Institutions with a history of intervention create confidence. People assume problems will be managed. This expectation delays behavioral change. Another reason is recency bias. People extrapolate from recent stability. If conditions have been calm, they expect calm to continue. This bias is strong during long expansions. Another reason is narrative reinforcement. Positive explanations dominate public discourse. Weakness is reframed as resilience. Concern is reframed as pessimism. This discourages attention to downside risk. Another reason warnings are missed is gradualism. Most economic deterioration happens slowly. Small changes do not trigger alarms. By the time change becomes obvious, adjustment is difficult. Another reason is institutional optimism. Organizations are rewarded for stability, not alarm. Raising warnings carries reputational risk. Silence is safer. Another reason is fragmented accountability. No single institution owns systemic risk. Each actor manages their part. System-wide consequences are no one's responsibility. Another reason is financial abstraction. Risk is represented by models. Models simplify reality. They assume continuity. When assumptions fail, risk appears suddenly. Another reason is lagged data. Economic indicators describe the past. By the time stress appears in data, it has already spread. Another reason is political constraint. Acknowledging vulnerability can trigger instability. So messaging remains controlled. Another reason is social normalization. As conditions worsen incrementally, people adapt. Adaptation feels like stability. Another reason warnings are missed is asymmetric information. Those closest to stress may lack influence. Those with influence may not see stress. Another reason is optimism embedded in growth systems. Economic systems are built around expansion. Downside scenarios feel unnatural. Another reason is trust in institutions. Trust delays skepticism. The more stable the past, the longer trust persists. Another reason is that crises are nonlinear. Pressure increases linearly. Outcomes change suddenly. This mismatch misleads observers. Another reason is overconfidence in tools. Policymakers rely on instruments that worked before. They assume similar effectiveness. Conditions change. Tools do not. Another reason warnings are missed is historical amnesia. Each crisis feels unique. Lessons fade. Patterns repeat. Another reason is that crisis signals are often invisible to those most affected. By the time impact reaches households, systems are already strained. Another reason is that warning signs often contradict incentives. Acknowledging risk may require sacrifice. People delay acknowledgement. Another reason is selective attention. People focus on immediate concerns. Long-term risk feels abstract. Another reason warnings are missed is complexity. Complex systems fail quietly. Simple systems fail loudly. Modern economies are complex. Another reason is belief in control. People assume someone is managing risk. That belief delays scrutiny. Another reason is delayed feedback. Actions taken today affect outcomes later. Cause and effect are separated. Another reason is that crisis narratives emerge after the fact. Before collapse, there is no clear story. Only signals. Another reason warnings are missed is that stability itself becomes the evidence. If nothing has happened yet, people assume nothing will. This is why crises feel sudden. Not because they arrive suddenly, but because recognition arrives late. When normality finally breaks. The moment an economic system breaks rarely looks dramatic at first. There is no single trigger. There is no obvious starting point. What changes is behavior. Confidence weakens. Liquidity tightens. Expectations shift. And once expectations shift, stability unravels quickly. One reason breakdown feels sudden is threshold effects. Economic systems tolerate stress up to a limit. Below that limit, adjustment is smooth. Above it, adjustment accelerates. Nothing appears wrong until the threshold is crossed. When it is crossed, change is rapid. Another reason is feedback loops. Small disruptions trigger reactions. Those reactions create additional stress. Stress feeds back into behavior. What was manageable becomes self-reinforcing. Another reason is synchronization. Problems that were isolated begin to align. Debt stress coincides with slowing growth. Liquidity stress coincides with asset repricing. Policy limits coincide with rising uncertainty. When pressures align, stability erodes quickly. Another reason is loss of confidence in backstops. As long as people believe support will work, behavior remains stable. When belief weakens, behavior changes immediately. Credit tightens. Spending slows. Risk tolerance collapses. Another reason is liquidity preference. In uncertain conditions, people prefer safety. Assets once considered stable are re-evaluated. Markets reprice not based on fundamentals alone, but on fear of access. Another reason breakdown accelerates is balance sheet interaction. Losses in one area affect others. Collateral values fall. Funding conditions worsen. Forced selling begins. Another reason is institutional constraint. Policy tools have limits. When limits become visible, confidence declines. Not because tools disappear, but because effectiveness is questioned. Another reason is narrative reversal. Stories that once explained stability lose credibility. New narratives emerge quickly. These narratives amplify fear. Another reason is time compression. Processes that took years suddenly unfold in weeks. Decisions are made faster. Errors increase. Another reason is global interconnection. Modern economies are tightly linked. Stress travels quickly. Geographic distance no longer isolates risk. Another reason breakdown feels sudden is that adjustment was delayed. Pressure accumulated quietly. Release is not quiet. Another reason is forced recognition. Once consequences affect daily life, denial ends. Recognition feels immediate. Another reason is asymmetric impact becoming universal. Stress that once affected some now affects many. This changes perception. Another reason is institutional response lag. Actions take time to implement. Markets move faster. Another reason is that expectations reset. Assumptions about growth, safety, and continuity are revised. This revision is abrupt. Another reason is loss of optionality. Choices that existed before no longer exist. This increases urgency. Another reason is that stability was maintained artificially. Once support weakens, adjustment reflects accumulated imbalance. Another reason breakdown accelerates is human behavior. Fear spreads faster than confidence. Another reason is that economic systems are nonlinear. Small changes produce large outcomes. Another reason is that crisis is recognized only in hindsight. By the time it is named, it is already underway. This is why the global economy often feels normal right before it breaks. Normality is not reassurance. It is the final phase of delayed adjustment. Understanding this does not predict timing. It explains structure. Economic systems rarely fail because no one warned about them. They fail because warnings are invisible until pressure becomes unavoidable. Normality is not proof of safety. It is often proof that stress is being delayed, redistributed, and absorbed quietly. By the time instability becomes obvious, the adjustment has already begun. This is why crises feel sudden. Not because they arrive suddenly, but because recognition arrives late. Understanding this does not prevent economic shocks. It explains why they feel confusing, why they spread quickly, and why confidence disappears faster than it was built. This channel exists to explain how money, power, and economic systems actually work beneath the surface. No predictions. No advice. Only explanation. If you want calm, long-form documentaries that explain the systems shaping everyday life, consider subscribing. New videos are released regularly. Thank you for watching.